February 22nd, 1944, 27,000 feet above Schweinfurt, Germany. The sky is burning. Formation of nearly 1,000 American heavy bombers pushes eastward, sunlight flickering across their aluminum skins like a sheet of molten steel. The temperature outside the B-17's thin fuselage is minus 40 degrees Celsius. You can almost feel the freezing wind clawing through every rivet seam as the flying fortresses grind forward, engines thundering in perfect, terrifying harmony. Inside the lead ship, the intercom crackles, bandits 11 o'clock high. German FW-190s and Bf-19 slash downward out of the sun, their cannons blinking fire. The Luftwaffe pilots know they refacing a storm they can barely dent. A steel armada too large to stop, too relentless to turn back. But they try anyway. B-17, 3 planes over, blossoms into flame. Another drops out of formation, trailing smoke like a dying comet. But the Americans keep going. Row after row after row. The formation stretching so far across the sky, it seems endless. A moving city made of wings. And this is the moment that reveals a deeper truth. The real battle wasn't just fought up here, above Europe. It was fought down there, in the factories of America, where thousands of women transformed industrial chaos into wartime precision. And among them was one figure lost to history textbooks. But immortal on the factory floor, Dorothy Braden, a 21-year-old bowing riveter whose hands could lay down perfect seams at blistering speed. Not a movie star, not a poster icon, just a quiet, determined worker who would help build hundreds of flying fortresses, including the ones now roaring through German gunfire. She wipes sweat from her brow in the dizzying heat of Boeing Plant 2. The air vibrates with the hammering of pneumatic riveters, the groan of overhead cranes, the metallic scent of aluminum dust. Every hour feels like a battle. Every shift feels like a mission. And she knows every plane that rolls out of this building may hold 10 young men whose lives depend on her work. That lines up the rivet gun. The bucker bar slams behind the panel. She fires tat-dash, 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 tat. A rapid-fire rhythm that becomes the heartbeat of the home front. She works fast, too fast for most supervisors to track with their eyes. Not because someone told her to, because the war is swallowing lives faster than factories can replace the machines they're flying. Her section chief once joked, "You drive rivets faster than the Luftwaffe can shoot the damn planes down." It wasn't really a joke. As the Luftwaffe bleeds planes and pilots over Europe, it becomes clear Boeing's riveters are producing B-17s faster than Germany can destroy them. Up in the frozen air over Schweinfurt, the surviving bombers reach their release point. Bomb bay doors open. Earth below braces for impact. And far away in Seattle, lifts her goggles, unaware that one of the B-17s overhead might contain her own brother. A truth she will discover far too late. Seattle, Washington. Boeing Plant 2. Winter 1943. 4:17 a.m., most of the city sleeps under a blanket of fog. But inside Plant 2, the night is alive. The doors slam open as steps into the cavernous building, and the first thing that hits her isn't the noise. It's the heat. It's the kind of suffocating metallic warmth that fogs the goggles and stings the eyes. Overhead cranes swing raw aluminum sheets. Sparks rain like orange comets from welding stations. The rhythmic clatter of drill motors echoes across nearly 1 million square feet of concrete. Every wall trembles from the hum of industrial urgency. If you stand in the middle of the assembly line, you can feel a strange thing. The entire building seems to breathe, expanding and contracting with the pulse of war. Adjusts her bandana, ties down her hair, and steps to her station on the aft fuselage line. She's one of the tens of thousands of women who flooded the factories after Pearl Harbor. Housewives, waitresses, students, farmhands, overnight transformed into mechanics, welders, and riveters, not because they wanted glory, because there was simply no one else left to do the work. Boeing called them essential production units, but the truth was far more human. They were the backbone of the arsenal of democracy. Lifts her rivet gun heavy, industrial, loud. She checks the air hose. She tests the trigger. And then the dance begins. Her partner, Abuka, slides into position behind the aluminum skin. The metal trembles slightly as she aligns the rivet shaft. Tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. The gun kicks, biting into the aircraft, fusing metal at a speed that seems almost reckless. But Dot's hands never shake. The foreman calls out over the noise. "Braden? You're hitting 22 rivets per minute. That's Bomber Plant record speed." She doesn't respond. She doesn't need to. This isn't about a record. It's about time. Every extra hour she saves means another B-17 rolling out sooner. Another bomber joining the thick defensive formations that keep crews alive. Another mission flown against German factories that refuse to stop turning out fighters. Her father once asked, "Why do you work yourself to exhaustion every night, Dot?" She answered simply, "Because those boys up there don't get to stop." And she meant it. Around her, the assembly line moves like a living creature, wings lowered from the rafters. Turrets tested, miles of wiring laid by hand. Engines lowered into nestles with the precision of surgery. And above all else, the frame of the B-17 grows. From scattered parts into a steel titan, what the Luftwaffe never fully understood is this. For every B-17 that burned over Germany, 2 more rolled out of factories like Plant 2, and one was one of the reasons why. But there's a truth-bowing workers don't know yet, something that will change how. Dot views every aircraft she touches. One specific B-17 crew member, a gunner stationed in England, is writing a letter home, unaware his sister built the plane he's flying in. The next time he takes off, he won't be coming home. But Dot doesn't know that. Not yet. She just keeps riveting, faster, harder, as if she can somehow outrun fate. RAF, Basingbourne Airfield, Cambridgeshire, England. February 10th, 1944. 6:52 hours. The cold is the kind that slashes through flight jackets and settles deep in bone. Frost clings to the plexiglass nose of the B-17 parked on the hardstand, engines ticking as they warm. Men shuffle toward the bomber with that quiet, heavy walk shared by crews who know that each mission might be their last. Staff Sergeant William Billy Braden, waist gunner of the 91st Bomb Group, slaps his gloves against his thigh, trying to shake off the numbness. He's only 21, but the war has carved hard lines into his face. This morning, the target is Germany's industrial heart, the steelworks of Essen, the Ruhr. The Ruhr. The most heavily defended patch of sky on Earth? Billy climbs into the flying fortress, running his hand along the interior fuselage ribs. The clean rows of rivets, perfectly spaced, perfectly set. He doesn't know it, but the hands that drilled them belong to his younger sister. Dot, he hasn't seen her in over a year. She writes him letters when she can. He reads them under the dim glow of red cockpit lamps on late nights after missions. He never tells her the truth that every time he climbs into a bomber, she might already be writing a letter to a brother who no longer exists. Inside Boeing Plant 2. Sometimes whispers to the aircraft, keep them safe. Inside B-17 number 4231122, Billy whispers the same thing. As the bomber taxis out, the ground crew chief shouts, "Bring her home, boys." But the men don't answer. Not because they re-rude, because they dainty want to make promises they can keep. The engines roar, one after another, a deep-throated thunder that shakes the entire airfield. As the plane lifts off into the gray English dawn, Billy feels the familiar jolt in his stomach, the same feeling every bomber crewman gets. You're going back into the furnace? You might not return. Back in Seattle, wipes sweat from her forehead with the back of her glove. Her shift is almost over. Her muscles ache. Her hair is plastered to her cheeks. And yet she keeps pushing. The radio plays quietly near her station, something upbeat, something cheerful. But then the announcer cuts in. Reports confirm another costly mission over Germany. Many crews did not return. Dot freezes. She doesn't know which groups flew today. She doesn't know which targets were hit. She doesn't know, but she imagines her brother climbing into dangerous skies. And suddenly the factory's noise feels far away, drowned under the thudding of her own heartbeat. She presses her hand against the fuselage section she's riveting and whispers, "Come home, Billy. Please come home." The foreman taps her shoulder. "You okay, Braden?" Dot forces a nod, but her hands tremble. The foreman doesn't pry. Psst. Everyone in this building has someone in the fight. Everyone holds their breath when news reports break in. Everyone works as if the next bomber rolling out might be the one that saves the person they love. What doesn't he know what she cannot know? is that Billy's plane is already deep over enemy territory, flying into a storm of flak so thick it looks like a wall of black smoke. And something is about to go terribly wrong. Over Essen, the fortress formation tightens. The lead bomber calls out, "Flak heavy, accurate." Billy leans out his waist window, the sky erupting with fire. The smell of cordite, the sharp tang of cold metal. The low drone of engines straining at maximum power. A burst detonates near the right wing. Shrapnel tears across the fuselage. The plane shudders violently. Then comes the sound no bomber crew ever forgets, a metallic shriek, like the aircraft itself is crying out. Hydraulic pressure dropping, engine 2 smoking. Hold formation. Hold formation. Billy grips his .50 cal machine gun, but he makes a mistake. He glances down. Never should have. Below him, the Ruhr is a hellscape, fire pouring from chimneys, the ground crawling with anti-aircraft batteries that spit death into the sky. He swallows hard. He thinks of home. He thinks of the letter tucked in his jacket pocket, the one he hasn't replied to yet. Another explosion. The bomber rolls sharply. Billy's voice joins the crew's panicked chorus pilot. "We're hit, we're hit." A moment later, the B-17 falls out of formation. Dot's riveting kept the plane together, but no rivet in the world can stop gravity. And on the other side of the world, inside Boeing Plant 2, suddenly feels cold, as if someone is slipping away. But the truth will not reach her for weeks. When it does, it will change everything about why she works, and how fast she can drive a rivet into steel. Seattle, Washington. March 3rd, 1944, 6:11 p.m., it's raining. It's not a drizzle, the kind of heavy Pacific. It's northwest downpour that rattles roof shingles and leaves the streets shining like mirrors. Dot hurries home after a 12-hour shift at Boeing Plant 2, hands aching, boots soaked, clothes carrying the faint scent of aluminum shavings and machine oil. Her mother's waiting on the porch. She isn't sitting, she isn't knitting, she's just standing. Frozen stops at the bottom step. The rain drips from her bandana. Her breath fogs the air. She knows something is wrong. Her mother's hand slowly lifts, revealing an envelope, pale creased, stamped with a black eagle and the words, "War Department, official business." Dot's throat tightens. "No," she whispers. "No, not Billy." Her mother doesn't speak. She doesn't have to. Her eyes tell the story. Takes the envelope with shaking fingers. The paper feels heavier than steel plates. She drills into bombers. Her stomach sinks as she turns it over. Her name written in careful military handwriting. Inside, a small typed sheet waits. She hesitates, then unfolds it. "The Secretary of War desires me to express his deep regret." Her knees buckle. Her mother catches her as she collapses onto the steps. Billy, her brother, her closest friend, is the boy who taught her how to skip stones at Lake Union. The boy who carved his initials into her lunch pail for luck. Gone. Missing in action, a phrase the military uses when they want to say what everyone already knows. Presses the letter to her chest and sobs into the rain. But grief in wartime doesn't give you time to breathe. Across the country, telegrams like this are landing on porches by the tens of thousands. Another son, another husband, another brother, another name carved into the sky. Inside Dot's mind, a terrible thought echoes. Did I build his plane? She doesn't know the serial number of the bomber Billy flew. She doesn't know whether her rivets held through the firestorm or whether the crew bailed out. She doesn't know anything. Uncertainty is its own kind of grief. That night, long after her mother falls asleep, sits alone at the kitchen table, staring at the War Department letter. Then she turns it over and begins writing on the back. Not a letter, not a goodbye, but a promise. "Billy, I swear, as long as I can stand, I will build planes faster than they can shoot them down." She underlines it twice the next morning. Boeing Plant 2. 4:38 a.m. Walks into the factory differently. No limp, no exhaustion, just fierce burning purpose. Her foreman takes one look at her face and says nothing. Everyone at Boeing recognizes that expression, the haunted look of someone who just learned the cost of war. She goes to her station and grabs her rivet gun. No warm-up. No stretching her hands like she usually does. She slams the first rivet into the new fuselage section with so much force the bucker jolts behind the metal. Easy, Dot. Her partner calls out, but she isn't listening. She's moving faster than she ever has. Her arms a blur, her breathing sharp and steady. Her eyes locked on the metal skin of the bomber. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Rivet after rivet sinks into place, perfectly aligned, perfectly clean. Braden's on fire today, someone shouts, which is always fast. Another worker yells back, not like this. Word spreads down the line. Braden is hitting numbers that don't seem human. Even the foreman stops to watch. He's seen good workers. He's seen fast workers. But he's never seen someone driven by something this deep. Dot doesn't look up. She doesn't speak. She doesn't wipe the sweat dripping into her eyes. She just works. Her grief doesn't slow her down, it accelerates her. Her rivet gun becomes a weapon. Each burst of air pressure, a strike against the unseen enemy who took her brother. And then something remarkable happens. For the first time since she began working at Boeing, beats the line clock. Meaning the assembly line, powered by rails, gears, and the scheduling of hundreds of workers, struggles to keep up with her. She is building the bomber faster than the next section can arrive. A few workers pause just to watch her hands. The factory is deafening. But you can almost feel a pocket of silence around Dot, as if the war has narrowed to a single woman and a single tool, carving defiance into steel. But later that week, Dot receives another envelope. Not from the War Department. It's one from overseas. From England? From Billy's squadron? Her hands tremble as she opens it, bracing for more pain. But inside is a small note and a photograph. A photograph of the plane Billy flew. When sees the image, her heart stops. She knows that bomber. Not because of its serial number, not because of its name painted under the bombardier's window, but because she remembers a single crooked rivet, one she tried to fix. But the foreman told her to leave because it met inspection standards. In the photograph, that crooked rivet is visible. Her rivet, her plane, her brother. The realization hits her like a punch to the stomach. She did build his bomber. She did touch the steel that carried him into battle. She did give him the only armor she could, her hands, her sweat, her skill. And now, she knows exactly what she must do next. Because Billy wasn't the only one who needed her. Thousands of boys were climbing into bombers every day. They were counting on her hands to get them home. Lifts the photograph, presses it to her lips, and whispers, "I'll build them faster, Billy." For all of them. Tomorrow, she will return to Plant 2, and she will change everything. Boeing Plant 2, Seattle. March 1944, September 1944. The world inside the factory hasn't changed. The machines still roar. Sparks still rain. Engines still thunder on test stands. But Dot has changed. There's no fear in her movements anymore. No hesitation. No wasted motion. Her hands become legend. Foremen start timing her, then stop because the numbers don't make sense. Supervisors walk her line, whispering among themselves. Boeing engineers gather behind her with notebooks, trying to figure out how one person is averaging nearly 30 rivets per minute with near-perfect accuracy. Her arms ache constantly, her knuckles bleed. She works through lunch breaks. She refuses early clockouts. She takes double shifts when the plant calls for volunteers. Some say she looks possessed, others say she looks inspired. But the truth is simpler. Every rivet she drives is a promise to her brother. Every bomber she helps build is another life she might save. And in a war defined by machines, strategy, and attrition, that kind of purpose matters. America's arsenal accelerates. Across the country, the tempo of production becomes a race against death. In 1942, building a B-17 took nearly 2 weeks. By early 1944, with women pushing themselves beyond what was thought humanly possible, Boeing rolls out a new flying fortress every 63 minutes. Every 63 minutes. The factory whistle blows. Workers clear the line. Another bomber rolls forward on squealing tires. Then another and another. The Luftwaffe cannot keep up. They shoot down 20 bombers. America builds 40. They destroy a formation over the North Sea. Another formation replaces it the next morning. Doesn't know macro strategy. She doesn't know Eisenhower's invasion deadlines or Speer's production nightmares. But she knows this. Every square inch of metal she touches. Every rivet she sinks, which makes it harder for the Nazis to win. Then comes the news that changes. Everything June 6, 1944. D-Day arrives at her station just before dawn when a foreman climbs onto a crate, wiping his glasses with shaking hands. Listen up. We've got radio confirmation. The invasion has begun. The boys are on the beaches. The factory goes still. For the first time in months, Dot's rivet gun goes quiet. Then the cheering starts. 20,000 voices echoing through metal rafters. But Dot doesn't cheer. Instead, she closes her eyes and whispers, "Go get them home," because she knows what the soldiers overhead depend on. The naval bombardment, the landing craft, the paratroopers. But most of all, the bombers. The B-17s and B-24s that spent months pulverizing rail lines, airfields, coastal batteries, and German supply routes. The bombers built by women like her. Somewhere above Normandy, flying fortresses roar through harsh crosswinds. Somewhere in those bombers, a waist gunner touches a rivet pattern, recognizes a pattern she set with her own trembling hands. Billy never made it to this day, but his sister helped make this day possible. The end of Plant 2's greatest worker by late 1944, the Luftwaffe is broken. Fuel is scarce. Pilots are gone. Germany cannot stop the Allied advance. And in Boeing Plant 2, something begins to happen that no one expects. Dot slows down. Not because she grows weaker or because her skills fade, but because the war is finally winding down. And the weight she carried for so long begins to lift. On her final day at the plant, her foreman gathers the team. "This one rolled off the line in record time," he says, tapping the polished aluminum skin of a brand new bomber. And it's because of her. Dot blushes as the workers applaud, but she steps forward, placing her hand on the warm metal one last time. "Bring them home," she whispers. After the war, never becomes famous. She doesn't seek medals. She doesn't give speeches. She returns to a quiet life, a quiet job, a quiet kitchen table, where she kept Billy's photograph tucked behind a worn salt shaker. But history remembers what people like her did, not with parades, not with monuments, but with the victory their hands made possible. The truth is simple and powerful. The war wasn't won only by generals and heroes. It was won by ordinary Americans who picked up tools and built machines faster than the enemy could destroy them. Braden was one of them, a woman whose hands outpaced the war itself, a sister who turned heartbreak into victory, a riveter who sent steel angels into the sky to shield men she would never meet. And every time a B-17 returned home with its wings shot to pieces, but its fuselage still intact, a little part of Dot's promise survived.